We are live, and welcome to another episode of the Turn Up for What podcast, talking your Houston Texans straight from the Great British Isles. We are back a couple of days later, allowing for a bit of travel time, but we're getting over the jet lag and whatnot. But I've got Gareth joining me this week to talk about the Texans' loss in Green Bay and what was kind of a strange game and a kind of a good trip, but strange game, and it puts this team in a really funny position. I think going into the last. Or going into the second divisional round with the Colts this Sunday. So we'll try and cover all that. But Gareth, how you doing? All right?
Good. Yourself? Good weekend?
Good. It was. Do you know what? And if you ever get a chance to go, it's just surreal. Actually, I think I've done it. I've been lucky enough to do quite a lot of kind of sport and stuff in my life. But yeah, there was something just amazingly cool about it, I think, and just the experience. The stadium's just in this tiny town, sort of an hour and a half north of Milwaukee, which is a cool place as well, by the way. I would have to go back to that actually. But yeah, it's just this tiny little town with 100,000 people when you drive in, sign in the when you come, in the inroad in.
Yeah.
And it's just so interwoven in that community. It's probably kind of hard to articulate. I think the coolest thing I found out, one of the people told us at the tailgate, that you can't buy a season ticket necessarily. You have to be gifted in somebody's will, and it's sort of handed down each generation. Really? Yeah, and I'm sure they do sell some, but all the fans are members or owners of the club, so that's what makes it different. But then what's also different is it's just basically this stadium that's huge and it's growing at time, and it looks old on the field side, but on the outside of it's all been refurbished and it's fantastic. And the away from the bleachers, because you literally sit on metal bleachers. There's no backs to the seats. You can actually rent backs to the seats to sit on. And we pulled up, parked on someone's front lawn, and I think we gave them $30 or something, and then they basically convert their garage into a bar. The garage rolls up. There's a fridge inbuilt, barbecue. The guy was doing it's very kind of Germanic settler kind of area, and the hot dogs, they call them brats. The guy was doing them. I wish I got his name now, but it was just, we were just on his driveway. I'll text you over a picture after this. And then people just streamed up from everywhere. And obviously they all make a bit of money of it. People buy houses, rent them, and it's turned a little bit commercial, I suppose, in the way it has. They've got the draft there in 2025, but and that game only happens every 8 years, so we'll not be back there for another 8 seasons now. But I think it was just, despite the performance, it was just a really kind of unique weekend, I think, in terms of just the spectacle and how you were treated and all this kind of stuff. So I couldn't recommend. Everybody that's been has said the same thing, but it's surpassed. And I'm fair to say I'm kind of hard to please kind of person, but it went beyond my expectation. It was really, really fucking special. To be fair, it was cool as fuck. It really was.
Right. So we always talk about going over to America to watch a game. Like, we've been to London, me and the boys, or me and my son go all the time, But I always want to go to America, so that's definitely on the bucket list.
Yeah, I would definitely add it. It's a little bit tricky to get to. You got to fly to Chicago. It was about 3 hour drive. Stayed a couple of days in Chicago, and yeah, no, it was great. It's a great experience. And I suppose that's the bit that I sometimes like. I love going to Houston, but I've done it a lot of times. But going to the road games is the bit that for me is cool. And you just go to random places you would never be. I've been to Indianapolis and Denver and stuff. I don't ski, so I would never go. You know what I mean? So it's just like all these places that it's just like different experience. And yeah, it's just something that I would urge anyone to do, even if you just went as a neutral. It's cool. It really is. But a bit of clock management really decided to ruin the day when I thought we'd maybe pulled out the bag. I kind of felt that drive was going about as well as it should have and could have, considering all the stuff that led up to that point. Were you sitting there watching and think we're going to do it?
I'm still even thinking to myself now, what was the thinking behind that whole, them last 4 plays? What was the whole thinking about it? What was a minute and, just over the 2 minutes?
Yeah, a minute. It was just under the 2 minutes. So they called 2 timeouts, the 2 minute warning. And so even if they'd have ran the play, they wouldn't have got the full 45 seconds off because they still had the one timeout. It would have inhibited their rather relaxed manner that they went down and kicked the field goal, which was kind of strange actually, because when you get to thinking of how good the defense had been in the second half, they got the ball 3 times. That was it.
Yeah.
Because we were running the ball quite well all day. So it was just because if you'd have told me before the game that you'd get 3 turnovers to nothing, you'd run the ball for triple digits, and you'd only let them score 24 points, would you have taken that before the game? Absolutely, you would have taken that.
Definitely.
And it was 156. And then, but to compound that, they then kicked the ball at the back of the end zone on the special teams play on the kickoff to take no time off the clock. And you left them with the timeout. I think leaving them with the timeout was the biggest thing.
That's literally in my thinking. Like, we were third down, they had one timeout left, and he throws a pass for an incompletion. Like, what was that all about? Automatic stop the clock.
I even said that on the broadcast. You could take a sack there and it would have been better. And actually, because you were close up, so you weren't. It was unlikely you'd miss the field goal if you lost 7 or 8 yards on a sack. No. Or you could have just had a sort of, I've seen him do that before, where you just sort of run to the other hash. The quarterback gets the ball and slides, and then that would have been better.
Do you know what I mean? Run about for a couple of seconds, out, like you said, slide.
Yeah.
Take the pass on. Like, the pass wasn't. I don't know. Every time I think of it, like, what's the point? Like, they were always getting the ball back. So Green Bay was always getting the ball back. But would you rather have the ball back with no timeouts or one timeout? That's my thing behind it.
Well, even if you ran it and somehow they were expected it, because it was Darian Gabwali was in the backfield, and I was thinking when they were lining up, and you could everybody around us, what? And I was like, it's got to be a delayed handoff. It's got to be because they're obviously spread them out. And I thought, and then he'll run up the middle, try and bounce off a couple of guys, and you maybe take 8 seconds off the clock, maybe even 12, and you kill the timeout. And don't get me wrong, the offense didn't deserve to win you that game. And I suppose it was a failure on, like, and I love D'Amico, and I think I tweeted after the game, but that wasn't good enough. Like, you didn't do what you needed to do in a situation that was within your control to give you the best chance to win the game, and now therefore you lose a game. Now, I think should have been a win. You could argue not based on offensive output, but you got 3 turnovers. Your special teams played well, got you one of those turnovers. 2 turnovers either side the half, and you just couldn't get the offense to go that day through the air. Now on the ground, Joe Mixon, fucking superstar. I don't know where this team would be without him. Kyrie Fairbairn, Joe Mixon, I think, would be I'd hate to think what the record would be, but I suppose it was one of those games or one of those days that made you perhaps think we're not quite as close to where we want to be in sort of championship roster, because the way the team's cap and the way the team building kind of set up is this year and next year's like your acid test. You maybe get a third year, but then after that third year, when you've got to pay all these guys on the roster, your chances are going to be a little bit dissipated, depending on how well you draft, right? So you kind of felt if this year we push it and we get close, then we'll take it. Or at least let it be a fun ride, and it has been. And losing an NFC game, it's not the end of the world when it comes to head, because you just need, when you're division, you just need to do well in the AFC, and that's how you enter the playoffs. That's how you're ranked. But that being said, Gareth, I just felt it was a coaching letdown, and I think that's probably the first time you've kind of looked at the coaching staff and D'Amico, because he's ultimately responsible, and pointed a bit of fingers and maybe a more than fair irritation at how they handled that situation on both the kickoff after and then the third down play, because you potentially let them get an extra 3 plays in there, which might be the difference between kicking a field goal and not.
Do you blame that on D'Amico? But I know you're saying that there, but obviously as coaches have the autonomy to do what they want. Like, special teams should kick off, they should know what to do. Do you know what I mean? Like, keep the ball in, like you said, run down for 5-6 extra seconds. Like, what was in the clock with the field goal? 20 seconds, was it? 15 seconds?
Like, when they kicked it? No, it was like 4 or something. That was it, wasn't it? I think, is it? So,
but he took the time out, you remember, they let it go down. So what could it...
Oh, yeah.
So to me, wouldn't blame so much on D'Amico Ryan's what he was doing. I think it's on his other coaches what they were doing. But as you're saying there, offensive wise, like I know CJ Stroud, he's been amazing. He's had a bad game. Joe Mixon, I never thought he was that good. To be honest with you, until I seen him this year with us. Is that like make? I mean, we're a better team than the Bengals were last year, but he's
Well,
been brilliant.
well, do you know the run blocking at times has actually been good, and so it's been mixed, right? It's not just not being consistent on that side of the ball, but when you looked at like the offensive output now, and I think that's the fourth game this season where we've only scored 3 points in the second half out of the six. Take New England out of it, take the Colts out of it, and I think that's where you get to. I don't know. I think in that situation, Miko's got to be the headset and saying this has got to be a run, whatever
Yeah.
you call it. However you call it, it's up to you. But the strategic direction, because he's the ultimate strategist, because that's the difference between strategist and a play caller. Good strategists make good head coaches. Good play callers only make good play callers. So, and actually, we've been outsmarted by adjustments. But when your defense gives you 3 big stops in the second half and should have been shorter fields, and they were decent field position, it just was ultimately it was which again I think is coaching. Was the offensive line, and I'm sick to death of talking about it, Gareth, but I think ultimately there's a mix between the players have got to take accountability and the coaching staff have got to do. But when they're obviously coaching running proficiencies with the ball and run blocking, then for me, I kind of think it's down to the players and communication, because a lot of it's just kind of handoffs and of stunts and twists and just and then it's on your left, on your he's coming out, and you're swapping over whatever the call is, that they say to each other as it's going. And look, it's happening quick, but it just seems the book's out on us in terms of stopping us. We didn't score enough early. But the offensive line, I think I'm sick of talking about it, but it seems like it's been an issue since we had Wade Smith, Dwayne Brown, Chris Myers, those days. That's going back a while now for many fans. There's some fans probably before they're any memory. So yeah, it just feels like until this team can get the pass and protection set, which even when Nico Collins is not, and there's a lot of scramble plays that pull you out the shit at times in third and long. But yeah, until this passing sets and passing protection can get right, and that's from your tight ends to your running backs to your offensive linemen. D'Amico Ryan said this week, Gareth, nothing's off the table. What do you think he's going to do? Because I think it goes from this bit where he's like the great motivator to, you've got to be a butcher at sometimes to weed shit out of your business or your team when needs be. So he's got to do something, I think, this week. What do you think that is?
Credit the coach. Get rid of the line coach. It has to be ruthless, as you're saying. Like we paid Titus Hard, like how many million, and on so many plays on Sunday, he was just beat every time. There's actually one play I think he ended up on his backside. That's how.
So I saw that again, and it looks like Schultz just slightly stands on his toe as he's setting off backwards, which your heels on your weight shouldn't be on your back foot, but I think it was. But
even,
I did, so I just saw that. But yeah, but no, look, from my point of view, Gareth, I don't think he should have ever been given that extension. I don't ever think anybody could. I've asked loads of people this. Tell me a set of games or a time where you thought he's earned that extension through injury, through moving positions, not all his fault, but I never thought he was worth that deal. And I think he looks overweight as well. Just seeing him in the flesh at the weekend there.
But do you not think like we can pick up somebody a lot cheaper? Even Shaq Mason, even you know what I mean, even a centre. There's lots of alternatives out there for less money. Like I can't believe we paid that kind of money.
Well, we had that second half of last season. Fant, wasn't it, a right tackle for all half when he got injured? So yeah. Oh no, I mean the 188 million that's been put in this offensive line, the number of draft picks, it should be better than this. Is it all the coach? I don't know. I think it's equal blame, but something's got to change. I think it's frustrating, right? Because there's a play where Kenyon Green. It's the one before the second Joe Mixon touchdown, and he gets a highly paid defensive end. I think it was either Preston Smith or Rashan Gary. I can't remember. But anyway, he gets him and he drives it back, and he gets a good hand contact, makes contact first, drives him back, and he clears the hole for the run. It's just inconsistent, and I think that's mental. So that's half coaching, half on the players to say, right, when you're in this situation, this is what you need to do, and they need to then go and execute that, because some of the messaging is getting through. So, look, do I think Chris Strasser is the best offensive line coach in the league? No, but I think he's maybe been given an easy time of it, and maybe everybody hated Mike Devlin, didn't they, when they under O'Brien? He used to get shit for it. But different coach, some of the same players, different problems. But I think longer term, you gut it and you get out of some of these contracts. Maybe you keep Tunsil and Scruggs, maybe, and then the rest I think are all up for replacement. But Scruggs has been up and down as well, so I don't know. But do you think it's just as simple as change the line coach? Would that get these guys playing better?
I think we need to do something, and like you're saying, they're not going to cut into the players. They give big contracts out. Like Tunsil's not going to be traded now. We can't do anything. Like Scruggs is still a rookie, kind of 2 years in, 3 years max.
Yeah, it's year two. He is year two, and he was
Year
injured
two,
for most of last year. Yeah.
Can't make a thing. Kenyon Green, in my opinion, has came on leaps and bounds this year. I know he still has his deficiencies, but I think he's came on leaps and bounds, especially in the run game.
Yeah, in the run game he's serviceable. Yeah.
You know, when we drafted him, he was down as a baller in the run game, and he showed it great. Obviously, pass. I think I know we're like trying to go with the run a lot, as you can see with Mixon, but I think we are more designed with CJ Stroud, well, we should be, to be a passing team, which we are with Nico Collins. But at the same time, like if he's only getting 3-4 seconds, what can he do? You know what I mean?
Yeah, there was so many plays at the weekend there where I thought that they'd really schemed out Diggs at times, or they'd really, they'd rolled coverages to Diggs. I put a clip out earlier on podcasttexas.com X account, formerly known as Twitter, as everybody says. But yeah, there was just one play where it was actually a third down. It was the second drive of the day, I think, and there was nothing wrong with the play call. And actually, when you watch us running it towards the end, the scheme kind of changed up. There's a lot of guard pulling and center pulling plays rather than just that zone kind of stuff. But actually, when we're running it, it's fine. And it's just if we could continue to run it like that and just pass protect every 2 out of 5 plays better, we probably win that game. But there was just too many blown up plays and too many men. It's mental errors down to the players ultimately, because there's not many. I didn't really count that many bad play calls apart from the 2-point conversion. I thought both those play calls were back to back bad. There wasn't many play calls where I just thought that wasn't necessarily what we should do. But I think we seem to be in tight formations a lot of the time. The only time we spread it out was in the third quarter, and we ran about 3 screen passes out of it, but never really spread them out. And it just, I don't know. I think someone's got to change. I think if you're going to drop any of those guys out of the lineup, I think it's probably going to be Kenyon Green, just because it's either him or Scruggs or Mason that seem invariably to get it wrong. The tackles you've probably paid, so you're probably saddled to them for the most part. So is Jarrett Patterson or Kendrick Green going to really help you?
Patterson, I don't rate at all. I don't think he's going to do anything. Fisher, could you put him in? Could we? I'm not too sure.
Could you? I don't think he's a guard, so unless you drop, Titus at right tackle, then that's probably your.
The other thing is, I don't think the tight ends are helping at all. And not even pass protect. Like, I mean, in the run game, the help. I think there was one play I can remember is that Schultz went for the inside man, and the outside man just ran out and just sacked CJ Stroud.
Yeah, that was a play I was talking about earlier. Yeah, no, I think there is, like, on the big run for Joe Mixon that set up the third touchdown, like that was blocked by tight end. So there is, and today was the first time I watched the All-22 back all season, and you see so much more, and you just pick up so much more that you just completely miss on the broadcast. And there's just little things. I'll give you a great example about the little things, right? I don't know if you remember their third touchdown, where it's just I think it's a classic Madden play. It's just the Jacobs, the tailback, cuts in, cuts out. Now the offensive lineman goes down, because I paused it back 3 times, because obviously the ineligible rule or an eligible player downfield is 1 yard more than 1 yard beyond the line of scrimmage, and he gets to 1 yard in front of the line of scrimmage and stops, and Chad Hansen just sees him, and that's not enough to get to the ball carrier back, because he was Chad Hansen was the linebacker that was always following Jacobs in the backfield. But the lineman, I don't know which one it was, is the right guard of Green Bay. He gets there, he just steps out, he knows exactly where he's meant to be, and it just does enough. And that's to find margins at this level. And because I paused it back and I thought he looks ineligible downfield. Paused it, and he was perfect when you saw it from the sideline camera angle. And I kind of thought at the time, but that was another thing. That was hot as hell, that game, and I think that was what helped us run the ball that well, because I was in the club side, bit of tangent here, but I was in the club store on the day after the game, and the lady said to me, "I've worked here for 20 years and I've never seen weather like that in October." So it was hot, and then they've got the big booths which were behind us. They're all glass fronted, so the sun was on you and it was bouncing off the booths on the back. So that end zone was hot. So I think that kind of helped. Probably should have helped us in more because these guys have done training camp in there. But yeah, it's the little margins that it was penalties before, and then, but it was almost exactly like the Colts game week 1 where we ran the ball really well. But we just didn't find enough big passing plays. And without Nico Collins, I think that the rest of the receivers haven't stepped up. And I suppose Tank Dell's probably the epitome of that. Didn't get a catch all day. It was right in front of me at the time. I couldn't believe he dropped, because I thought, well, you score early after the turnover, sets you on your way, and it's first advantage to the Texans at that point. But it shouldn't have been a drop. Now, it came when again, benefit the 22, Gareth. It came out of CG's hand a little bit wobbly. He probably laid it out a little bit further than he needed to, but it was a more than catchable ball. And I just, it was just one of those, because that's the difference. Those 4 points are the difference between winning and losing. So again, fine margins, but again, that was a moment that stuck out.
But the route, like Tank Dell's route was unbelievable. Did you see the way he just went one way, left them? Like, it's not as if the DB was anywhere near him. He had loads of time. Like, it could have been end over end. Like, some Tank Dell's quality should be catching that ball easy. Like, did it not bounce off his chest or that there and go out of his hand or something?
It's just the way he fell to the ground, I think, because it's hard to catch a ball as you're going to the ground and probably keep both. But I mean, I felt sorry for Tank. There was a couple of times where they should have got him involved. But I suppose that plus the defensive line difficulties, I think you sort of see CJ as a bit of a frustrated figure, because there was times in the third quarter where we were trying to get a drive going. He sort of scrambled when he didn't need to. He missed John Mechie 2 drives back to back wide open, ultimately because of the rush. It was starting to affect him. So that's probably the first time I've seen it rattle him a little bit. I think, for a guy that's just turned 23, his composure, his vision are flawless for the most part. But yeah, I just felt that it just got to him. And obviously it was his worst day as a pro passing. It was less than 100 yards, 80 odd yards. But yeah, it kind of, you saw him throw his helmet to the turf, I think, on the sideline at one point. So he cut a frustrated figure, Gareth. I think that's fair to say.
Well, you heard him after the game. He said it was all on the offense, but was it meaning off on the offense or on the offensive line? Why they were so bad? But like I said, any QB is going to struggle. But like, I know, you watch any game, QB under pressure, you can't see down the field. You can't see go through their phases. They can't see the open man. Like, if you've somebody rushing you all the time, within 2 seconds they're in your face, what are you going to do? 2-3 seconds? It's impossible for them. But and saying that, there, I think I know we're talking about coaching change and all there beforehand, but there's still positives as well. Like you're saying, do you know what I mean? I know we seem as if we're bashing them completely here, but like, Joe Mixon, unbelievable. Like honestly, I'd never thought he was that good until I've seen him play for us. So I have unbelievable. But like you're saying, go back to CJ Stroud. He'll come good. He will. There's no doubt in it whatsoever in my mind. But I think Nico Collins is a bigger loss than we're actually thinking.
Yeah, and I think you were looking to guys like Tank to make plays when he had to in this sort of 4-game stretch. Hopefully it's not more, but it might be. You just never know with hamstrings. And then it's minimum 4. So Detroit Sunday night, because that's a team I don't think we're even close to that level. And I suppose when you add all these small mental, physical errors, that's the difference between being able to compete with teams like Detroit, because they went up to Minnesota and showed them how to win a game, even though they almost threw it away with the first fumble all year, and then they still find a way to go and win it. So it was a day where I just thought we're not serious enough, because you had to be able to move the ball more consistently, and for us not to score early kind of undoes our formula, I suppose. there was a number of times, I suppose, in the game that you kind of look back on obviously the drop was one, if Neville Hewitt just runs it in after because if you watch it from the end zone angle, when Neville Hewitt intercepts that ball, if he just keeps running for the pylon, the quarterback's not going to take him out because there's a good 30-pound weight advantage there. But he just tries to cut in, and almost the quarterback does it. And it's probably a bit of tiredness, but there was a little bit like that. The two point attempts as well were piss poor, I thought. But I think it's probably difficult not to just think about this defense and how good it's been, because I think there's a couple of issues we'll come on to, but I think the second half performance was excellent. If you look at their three scores, they're all assisted by flags of some variety or mistakes from us. There's the suplex by Neville Hewitt, which sets up the first. The second touchdown could have been helped. And I suppose this was the bit, actually. So I don't know if you remember, and I don't know what they called it in the broadcast because I've not watched the full game back, but do you remember when I loved it's almost like a backwards lateral?
Yes. But
now, yeah, was it obvious at the time?
Totally. See,
yeah, okay.
Play it was backward. Do you know what I mean? Like it was.
So why not? And this goes back to D'Amico, and it's a whole symbiotic effort of coaches, staff, players. But why not just call a challenge flag there? Because that was their best drive of the day. Because it was from deep. It was a long drive. But why not call a challenge? Just even if you don't think you're going to win it, just to give your guys a breather.
Surely, but there's somebody in the booth must have been on the headset to him saying, "Look,
well,
challenge."
That's it, and that's an operational issue. Maybe.
Do you know what I mean? But you're saying, maybe they give him a rest. But to me, on the replay, it was totally blatant. There's no question in my mind that it was backward pass. But like you said, I think we're putting too much in D'Amico here, as if he should be seeing everything. Whereas
somebody upstairs should have called down and said throw the flag, even if and I think Caserio was doing that at one point. There is somebody doing that, so obviously that's been missed, or they weren't quite sure at the time, because straight away after they go over D'Angelo Ross. So if you watch the first play of the game, Gareth,
yep,
they beat D'Angelo Ross for a decent play to get you going. For that touchdown, they beat D'Angelo Ross. And then for the final play to kick it before the field goal, they go after D'Angelo Ross again. And they didn't give him safety help over the top. And he's not an NFL starter by any stretch of the imagination. We were already light at that position. They probably needed to sign another outside corner. I kind of thought maybe Des King would maybe play outside, because they elevated him and didn't play him. But I think he might have done a better job than that, because he did play outside for us, and I think it was the David Culling or the forgetful years. But again, that's poor roster management, because I think you reliant on a rookie. He came in and Kamari Lassiter. He's shown how good he was now, or how important he is. Probably more so than how good he was. But there was 3 big plays that bookended the game, and that one to make it for their second score at a key time, and they went after the guy who probably shouldn't be out there based on his career to date. So it was a little, I think, and again it goes back to the whole effort of everybody, but that's poor roster building, that's poor scheming for not covering up for him, and it was poor coaching by not calling a timeout to maybe just to give yourself a breather if you didn't like the look, or you just I think that was a 7th or 8th play on the drive by the time they scored. So yeah, just too many errors all round, I think, led to a narrow loss.
I think we can't. I don't think Caserio or D'Amico Ryans can legislate for the injuries we have on the outside. Do you know what I mean? I know you're talking about roster building there, but Ross isn't a starter. I probably, would you expect him to think he was going to be a starter, especially 2 games in a row now? In fairness, he done okay against the Patriots, but they didn't have much. Whereas Green Bay's pace were Reed and Wicks. Do you know what I mean? But as we're talking there, I think we're constantly getting beat by pace, if you know what I mean. You seen Pierce in the first game, the one deep. So he did the Richardson through to him. Like, we were beat for pace for that there. Just seems to be a recurring theme in the roster, which I think, I don't know so much as do with injuries, or it's the way, like you said, is made up, but I think we need a lot more pace on the outside.
Yeah, 100%. I think if we were to trade for somebody before the deadline, it'd either be a third corner, because I assume Jeff Okuda's injury was better than, or worse, sorry, than they anticipated, because you need more than two corners that can play on the outside. But that's kind of the position we were in, and those two guys were playing a lot of snaps, because if you think Derek Stingley got beat 3 times on a slant route at the weekend, he also missed a tackle. And I don't know if that's just a product of him playing a lot of snaps, because he's a guy you want to kind of be careful with. So even if it was Kamari Lasser and it was just a guy to give Stingley, one in so many plays off here and there in certain situations, obvious running downs, you take him off the field, I don't whatever it might be. Because if you get him injured as well, because I don't know if that's the reason, but Romeo Dobbs beat him inside 3 times, and one of the ones particularly on the last drive when they hadn't moved the ball at all. It was difficult. I think that there was that and the safety position. Eric Murray got flagged and he missed a tackle early in that final drive. And he should have had an interception, Eric Murray, on the final drive. On the first play of that final drive, he should have picked it off. So I think, we're just lacking that little bit of quality at safety. And don't get me wrong, shout out to Kalen Bullock. Did tremendously well. And he could have had another one as well. So, I mean, I don't know how many fucking almost there were on Sunday, but, it just feels like he's a rookie, right? So the fact that he's leading your team in interceptions, probably not a good thing. There needs to be other guys there to take the burden. And the Jimmy Ward injury, the Kamari Lasser injury, plus you're a little bit light, I think, in general at that spot. It's probably just not been enough depth there for me. But, I think when you think of those 3 touchdowns, and then the flag on Eric Murray as well to set up the other score, you kind of made it easy for them every time they got the ball. Even though they didn't concede for a long period in the third quarter, right to the last second. All those scores were all preventable in some way through either penalties or mental error.
But how long have we been talking about Eric Murray? Like, how long has people been saying?
Yeah,
good enough. You know what I mean?
No, he shouldn't be there. Yeah, it's the same as at D'Angelo Ross, exact same thing, I think.
You know what I mean? It's been on for years. Like, people have been saying, and he keeps on getting a contract. Do you know what I mean? And with MJ Stewart came in, like he's not a starter for, or maybe obviously a rotational guy, but I still don't rate him. I don't think he's
good. Rotational run defender, I think.
Yeah, but like you're saying, I hope that the injuries aren't as bad as what's been suggested, especially for Okuda, because first round pick, I think he could be great. He's got the pace as well to go with outside man. So he has. Lasseter, what does he said this week he'd be back, didn't they? I'm not too sure.
Possible. I think they might give. Well, I don't know, because the thing is, this is a double header. Is Sunday Colts, Thursday night Jets, and then you got a mini bye to get yourself right after that. So I don't know I don't know how many players you risk. I suppose you can't afford to lose this game, so maybe you do risk them. I don't know.
Risk reward, isn't it?
Yeah.
What do you do? Like, in all honesty, do we win this weekend? I think we get the division wrapped up, personally. So do you go all out now? Then
you're going to have to. You're going to have to, because there is no circumstance really that doesn't make this season a lot harder than it ever should have been if you don't win Sunday.
Yeah. Oh, 100% agree. But at the same time, with Pittman and Pierce, their pace scares me. Really does scare me. With if Ross is a starter, they're obviously going to target him after seeing him there last week. They have to.
Well, I think you have to pull him out, or you're going to have to hide him or give him a safety over the top. Because Stingley doesn't need that a lot of the time. I know he's been beaten a few times the last couple of weeks, so something to monitor. And I don't know if that snaps or what have you, but yeah, they'll need to be cautious, I think, in terms of how they roll their coverages and ultimately, they're going to want to run the ball, right? So it's just getting the balance. It's impossible to do. How many men do you put in the box versus you put an extra safety in there? But no, there was some good standouts on defense. So I thought, because I thought they called a great game, and when you got the 2 big sacks back to back from Donnell and Will, and they didn't move the ball. It was 2 3-and-outs back to back before they kicked the field goal. So I kind of understand why they relied on the defense, but it's not perfect. I don't think either side of the ball is championship caliber, and I think that's what's showing up, isn't it? It's just not quite there. And I suppose the most frustrating bit is that, there's some good. I thought Jalen Petrie played well. I think that's maybe one of his best games. And I think he's kind of settling into that role a bit better. and it was him that flicked up the ball for the interception for Neville on the Green Bay's first drive. But yeah, there's just a little bit missing on either side of the ball. But I suppose you can't get away from the frustration that the best player on your team, that every other club bar one or two would take from you, if you would let them, you're nullifying his talent by not getting the pass protection right. And I suppose that until that gets fixed, all the other stuff is kind of irrelevant, isn't it?
But it's like you're saying, they're even getting the fix. It's not going to be a quick fix, obviously, but it's simple things. It's wee stunts. Like it's just showing you what they're doing. It's not even complicated what the other teams are doing. Like they're sending one man one way to take two men out, and the other man's just straight through the middle. Like it's not nothing complicated about it. It's obviously communication. They're not talking as you said about the Green Bay one. Like that was totally scripted with the Jacobs touchdown. Run, turn to the side, stop the linebacker from tackling. Like that's just communication or coaching. So it comes down to both.
Yeah,
bit more communication, and I think CJ Stroud will have a lot more time, and we will be a lot more effective on offense.
I think Kurt Hinish got crumpled in the run game a couple of times, and that was his first game back as well. So he was responsible for at least 3 run in second and third quarter, and then I didn't see him much towards the end. So again, the Mario Edwards suspension for whatever recreational narcotics he decided to take in the middle of the season, or whenever that sample was that flagged up on the sample with the league. He was kind of a loss, even though I thought Tim Settle had a great game. I thought Will and Donnell, although they're not flashy, but I think the overall philosophy of this defense is just to keep that compact and let the linebackers clean up. And I suppose we buried the lead a little bit because today's news was, and the benefit of doing that during the week is we signed Devin White today, after he was released from, formerly a top 5 pick. I think it was questions about his condition and his role and he's freelancing in Philadelphia, and they've let him go. But I suppose if there's ever a position that we could pick a player up in mid-season to benefit us, and look, Chad Hansen had a great game, great couple of tackles for loss. I thought Neville Hewitt did great. Interception, led the team in tackles, as you'd expect. I think sometimes you want to get him more in the run game. And that may be an indication of Christian Harris's injury. It may be an indication of To'o's concussion. It may be of Al Shazier. So you think of all the injuries we've had or the issues, is knee injury, whatever it is. It might be one of those, or it might just be a player they felt like they could add quality or it could help you. And maybe actually we'll have some. It might just be as simple, Gareth, has given us some flexibility in terms of our formations, because we've pretty much been in nickel with Petrie being the third linebacker every snap. And with the Colts coming up, we're going to run it down your throat. And as other teams are, maybe it's just a bit of reinforcement. So maybe injury reinforcement. But what do you think of Devin White signing mid-season?
Honestly, I know he's had his struggles, like you said with the Eagles and being released mid-season doesn't say much about him. But if we get the Devin White from 3 years ago, Tampa Bay Pro Bowl Devin White, would you ever have thought that we could have got a player of that caliber, like for whatever they're paying? You know what I mean? Would you, like, if we could have got a player like him 2 years ago, 3 years ago, you've been going, oh, unbelievable, Caserio's a magician. To get him now, to get him even back to somewhere where he was, brilliant. Another thing I think he's really good at, and I think which will help us, and which we really need, is stopping the run, like you're saying against the Colts. But I still think we're very light. It's like you were saying about Heinz getting pushed over. I think we need that middle linebacker that's going to stop the run, and we need a big run stuffer up the middle. I still think that's our main concern on defense. I think if we can get them two sorted out, which hopefully White is, and plus a big run stuffer, I think we'd be what we now, top 3 defense. We'd definitely be moving up the ladder, like the top.
Yeah, I think if he can come in and give you more physicality, because if you think at Al Shazier, if you think at Toto, both kind of slightly lighter than you'd like, kind of linebackers. Like that's the kind of the way the league's going, I suppose. But yeah, you never know. I think if D'Amico can coach him into the system and he can give you a contribution, it could be found money at this stage of the season. And that often happens. And actually, if you look at all teams that are successful down the stretch, they often find guys who come in and give them something. that you didn't expect in the same way Barrett did. And I know he's not kind of lived up to much so far this year. You've got Danico Autry back. He just got his legs under him. He did actually get a bit of a pressure on the QB early on. Maybe after that, he faded away a little bit. But there's, it may be found money at this stage. But I suppose if you look on Sunday and you look at the season pre-injury and Sunday, we didn't necessarily need anybody more than that. But maybe the coaching staff, scout in front office felt there was a player that could add you some value, and maybe it's as simple as that. But we shall see. I don't know. I think it's going to be a must-win game on Sunday. I think because if you don't win, Gareth, you're level with the Colts, which I never would have thought you would have said that a couple of weeks ago. You then go to the Jets on a Thursday night, which is anyone's game. These Thursday games, to be honest, it's just, and especially with the way the Jets season is going, it's up and down. Pittsburgh was at 37 on them there at the weekend, so I just think under no circumstance can you afford to lose this Sunday. It is the epitome of a must-win because effectively gives you a 2-game lead in the division, and it allows you to be mistaken down the stretch. But if you lose this one, then you may be looking up at the Colts and trying to get a wild card spot rather than winning the division.
I totally agree with you. I think it's a must-win. I think if we win it, we win the division quite easily because I don't think the Jags or the Titans have anything to worry us at all. Like I said, I was watching the Jags there at the weekend, actually, and I know they won easy, but there's still nothing there to worry about. So there was nothing. The Colts, if Jonathan Taylor's not there, I don't worry at all. I don't think Anthony Richardson's performing the way he could. I don't think we have much to worry, apart from what we were talking about, maybe the bit of pace from Pierce or Pittman. But part of that there, like, if our O-line can get just an extra second, that's all, like a stride from going from 3 or 4 seconds to maybe 5 seconds makes a difference in a hell of a lot of them passes.
Oh, it's probably the difference of 150 yards, isn't it? Because I think when you look at the fixture schedule, the way it's setting up is you've got the mini bye after the Thursday night game, which is a toss up. But I don't see us being at the level of Detroit, and then you go up to Dallas on Monday night. So if you don't win on Sunday, that you could easily lose 4 in a row, if not 3 out of the 4, even if you do beat Indy. So we're going to have to improve massively in the passing game. And if you're reliant on Nico, in ways that we're not reliant on Nico, and I don't know if that's maybe like more tight ends on the field and shorter passes, and because even when they went to some of the quick stuff with the wide receivers, they weren't quite on the same page. So it's a depart. I think going to that was a departure. They did try, to be fair, Bobby Slowey, but I think we're just going to have to find new tendencies and new grooves quickly to one, help with the pass protection, and 2, help with the route running to get to attack. Because I think when teams play zone against us, I always think we look like we're okay. I think we're going to have to find ways to beat man cover 2 formations, and that's where most of our struggles have laid. And obviously the stunts and twists. But yeah, this game, I don't think there's ever been a game, because it's quite rare to play a divisional team twice by this stage so early. I think the fact that the way the schedule's laid out, we just cannot, and under any circumstances, drop this one. And it's going to have to be the best performance probably of the season to do it, I think.
Couldn't agree more. We can't lose it. But I know we're talking here about we need to improve the right running, we need to improve this, we need to improve that. Maybe Nico Collins is papering over the cracks for us, has he? Do you know what I mean?
Oh no, he definitely did. I think so. Yeah, with everybody else, it's the other guys around the room, particularly in the receiving positions, where that's tight ends, and it's not Joe Mixon based output. Who can step up and be that number 2 now? I don't know if it's Stefan Diggs, just what he's been asked to do, or is he losing a step, or whatever it is. But he's not dominated games in a way that he should do based on what he gave up from, based on his career to this point. So what go over and Stefan, I'm sure he'd tell you, based on the guy he is, and say, what are the routes, what are the plays that you want this Sunday? And here's 8, and the same with Tank Dell. What you and CJ's favorite route, favorite plays, here's 6, and we'll fill in the rest with Joe Mixon. Here's a couple for Cade Stover and how about Dalton Schultz, again, he's underperformed all year. How about he either fulfills his role or you bump up Tegan Contoriano and Cade Stover and give them all the reps and just split that role between the two of them where possible, because something's got to change to give you an edge and give you something new that the Colts haven't seen, because particularly with the second divisional game, there's always a regression to the mean. So there's got to be some innovation and got to be some. I'm not necessarily wanting trick bullshit plays. I'm never a big fan. I always feel that's just desperation more than anything else. But there needs to be something new, and I don't know if you've got any thoughts on that. But it's just something's got to change.
I'm actually personally thinking about Hutchinson. What about giving him a bigger role? Like the catch he made was unbelievable. So it was, with fourth quarter, wasn't it? Third or fourth quarter?
No, it was the fourth quarter for the field goal. Yeah, I thought that was it then. I thought we'd won the game at that point.
That totally, like that there catch was unbelievable. Even the commentators talking about it, how he brought it into his body, caught it, everything. You know what? One person as well, I think, Cade Stover. I think he's been the best tight end we've had. I know he's been playing a bit of fullback, but I think he's been a lot more productive than Dalton.
He blew. I counted at least 2, and I maybe tempted to say 3 blocks that he blew at the weekend there. But yeah, he should have packages that are going to give him the ball.
100%. I think that there. Hutchinson, one guy, John Mechie. What about? I don't think he's been schemed in enough. I know there's talks of being traded away actually as well, but like we have options now compared to years before. Like Eagle Collins is our number one, but we have options. Are we not using them? Do we need to scheme up a lot more for these players? I don't know.
Yeah, I think I suppose we've never had a game, I don't think, so far this season where we've ran the ball well and pass protected well. It just hasn't happened. So I think until you do that, it's really hard to judge. And CJ's made up for a lot of stuff, a lot of beautiful throws that a lot of other people wouldn't make. Whether that's scramble drills or whether that's just moving into space and finding guys. But I suppose it's hard to, him aside, elite talent, I suppose it's hard to criticise Bobby Slowick too much or fully evaluate his play call. And obviously we can evaluate the result, but evaluate the cause of the or the route to it is difficult. So I think if we could just play a clean game where you run the ball decently, 100, 120 yards, and just keep CG clean for the most part, and play kind of safe but smart football. All these guys can be evaluated, but I suppose when there's a defensive back or a linebacker just running through untouched into the backfield, all this stuff is just kind of irrelevant because you don't get that far. And it was the same with the penalties, right? So every week there's been something. Now that being said, that's maybe thinking as coaches, so maybe Chris Strasser will be out, or a sacrificial lamb if you don't win, because I think if anybody getting fired would have happened by now. But yeah, there just needs to be better all round on offense, and let CJ fully showcase his talents. And Tank Dell for me is the big disappointment, I think, because I just don't see why he doesn't get enough long balls, and we don't throw enough long balls, and we don't run enough play action. And I think we were kind of getting to it because we run the ball better. But if you could just get a play action, run decent, strong game where you're not getting behind the chains every time you run it on early downs, all this stuff becomes possible. But it's kind of, we've just shot ourselves in the foot to not let it get possible. And then I think all these other guys have suffered as a result.
I think Tank Dell's, I don't think the injury was that significant that it should have kept him back the way he is, personally. But I think he's a bigger disappointment than our O-line is. But like you're saying, like last year we were throwing it deep to him. He had the pace to get. He was burning people. Is it maybe the injury has affected him more than we?
So I thought that, and I saw, and it was actually Cade Stover blocked him on the final time the Texans got the ball punted or kicked back to them, or punted back to them, sorry, and he caught it. And actually Cade Stover blocked him. And if Cade Stover hadn't blocked him, he would have probably went on and scored, if not got really close to the end zone. So the pace was there, I thought, when you see them, because I was thinking to see it with the naked eye, I think, to get a full appreciation of the eliteness. And I didn't think, versus what I saw him play last year, I didn't notice anything. I noticed, as I said, Tyus Howard looking heavier than I thought he needs to be. I think Kenyon Green looks skinnier than he needs to be, I would say. But, based on what you think, all lines look like. But yeah, he's been a disappointment. But there's got to be at some point, whether it's just Stephon Diggs or whatever it is, there's got to be guys that step up and make a difference for this team, and that's where we're at. I suppose it's just about the coaching staff and the players to be mentally right to go and do that Sunday. Because if they don't, Gareth, it's going to be uncomfortable when it probably didn't need to be, and closer than it needed to be, as we've been in a lot of games. But the penalties have cut out at least, right? So if you cut the penalties out, you just improve the pass protection slightly. Maybe we are on the right trajectory in some way. It's just cumbersome.
But it's not unfixable. Like, we're not sitting here saying
No.
we need 20 players, we need a whole roster change. We're not sitting there. We're sitting here saying small things. Also, we need a wee bit of communication on stunts. You get another couple of seconds, another couple of long passes. How about we put in, like you said, a wee bit of play action? Because Joe Mixon run the ball unbelievable. So just a wee bit of play action after a big long run. They maybe stack the box, then Tank Dell. Maybe we're simplifying things. Tank Dell down the hashes. Like,
Yeah.
maybe.
Yeah, do you know what? Just gut them with tight ends, because you got Schultz early on a decent over route, and you thought, right, okay, he's going to have a game today, and then he just went back to making terrible mistakes again. So yeah, it's consistency, but I suppose I don't think there would probably not be a bigger game to bring it out. So NFC on the road, you can kind of afford to lose those and still be a seed in the AFC, or a home seed rather, because only one seed now after they changed it. But if there's ever a game, this is it. That now's the time to stand up, be counted, every man in that locker room, and look each other in the eye and say, how much do you actually want to go to the playoffs this year? How much do you want to make an impression? How much do you want to perform for your quarterback and live up to the level of his talent, and the roster that this fan base probably maybe got a little bit ahead of himself, myself included. But prove yourself, what you've got, and do it at home on the Colts on Sunday, because then it gives you a buffer. But it goes quickly the other way if you don't.
Oh, I totally agree with you. But do you think this is the week that the coaches earn their salt? Do you know what I mean? This is where you.
Sometime.
You know what I mean? But this is what D'Amico Ryans is meant to be all about. You know what I mean? So as, even from his playing days, these were the games that everybody says he was the one that got them up for. He was the one that made them ready. He's the one that put them out to get ready to play when he was playing. So this is where he shows who he is, shows his mettle. I don't think we're going to get beat. I don't think it'll be as close as we're maybe thinking, with a few tweaks. But like you said, it's a must-win game. We can't afford to lose. Not even contemplating it, to be honest with you.
Yeah, you can't contemplate. If we do contemplate, we'll be here next week with probably, I don't know, it may be similar themes. I hope not. But any final thoughts before we head out here, Gav?
Just you're talking about the schedule. I think, like, we're talking, like, we were sitting here a couple of weeks ago talking about the schedule. What would we be happy with? What would we say? We said we'd be happy with 2 wins, didn't we? When we were sitting here 3 or 4 weeks ago.
Yeah.
And they get 3 out of the 4. Like, if we get a win on Sunday, you're more than happy. But then it's the schedule going forward. Like you said, Jets.
Yeah.
Right. That's where Dallas. That's where the big games are. No, Dallas are much bigger at the minute.
Yeah. Well, no, and that's an easier game than you thought it was. But then again, like Miami, you never know. Tua comes back, does he play? Who knows? Is he damaged? You just never know. But the complexion of these games changes. But I suppose winning in the division doesn't change. And then if you can take that momentum and go up on a short week, which is hard to do on Thursday night, you put yourself back in a position that you could have been in if you'd have just won this game. But it's all to play for. And we're sitting 5-2, and there's been a lot of seasons where we've not been 5-2. So luxury problems, but you only want the best, because that's why we play the game, and that's what it's all about. There's only one trophy, and there's only one winner. But still not, they've still not dented my faith enough to make me lose hope. I think it's all there, and we can always improve. And maybe Devin White, Nico Collins, and some magical fixes here and there will make this team look good, because we've not been good to watch yet. I think that's the key. If we can be a performance where you come out and kick the doors in for 4 quarters, because every team does it, even the worst ones, at least once or twice a season, then that'll be all right Sunday. I'll take that. But you know what? I'll take a last-minute field goal. I'll take anything. I'll take a dodgy refereeing decision, just as long as you beat the Colts.
But is it not great that we're sitting here talking about we're winning games, and we're even talking about how we can play better?
Well, that's it, and that's been the luxury problem. You just have to play better at some point, otherwise the stuff that you've kind of swept under is okay, but you've just got to improve that at some point. Otherwise, you'll then lose games that you should win.
Yeah, I totally agree. Totally agree.
That's it.
It was great.
No, it's a great position to be in. It's fun again, and that's the best thing. And it's been great talking to Gareth. It's been great seeing all the listener numbers come back. If you've not already, please like, share, subscribe, and all that good stuff, and we can bring some of our old friends back to the table. This was live on YouTube with a limited viewership, but that's not the point. Saves a bit of editing time. The audio version will be out as always, and hopefully we'll be sitting here next week with a couple of us talking about another win against Indianapolis. But the alternative is unthinkable. But here's to a W on Sunday, and thanks again for listening. Top man, thank you.